In this last demonstration, I'm going to show you how we can use JavaScript to take three values, one from an actual field and two from a virtual field, join them together and store them in another actual field. And in order to do this, we're going to be working in the submit new event form specifically with the date of event field and the start time field. Now, some of you may have already worked with start time and noticed that in order to add in a start time of 8 o'clock, for example, you can't just type 8 o'clock into the start time field and click submit. It tells you it must be a date. Now, if you go and you choose a date, that doesn't really help you with adding the time, because that's just a date. Caspio will accept that, and what happens in the background is it stores it as in midnight 0000 as the time. So if we go, once you've done a bit of searching, you figure out that the start time needs to be in a format of month, day, year, space, hours, minutes, seconds. So if we got to get a start time that looks something like this. With a space, hours, colon, minutes, colon, seconds. So if we go now, looking at that, we've got our date. In this case, we've got year, month, and date. That's alright. That's still equivalent. So we have a format of year, day, year, month, and then day. What we want to do is we now need to add the hours, minutes, seconds. And to do that, we go and we say 8 o'clock, semicolon, 2 zeros, 2 zeros. That now means that our start time is going to be at 8 AM on the 19th of September 2017. So that's okay, a user can go and do that, but that relies on the user knowing the exact format. It relies on them first clicking in the date box, choosing a date, then going to manually type the time that they want to. We want to now provide an easier way to enter the date. Maybe we want to just provide an hours and a minutes field over here instead of and then add those two and then format it into the suitable format that can be inserted into the start time field. So let's start off, and we're going to be starting off in our event submit new event form. We have a start time here, but I want to change this up a bit to give a place where a user can add the hours, where they can add the minutes. So first of all, we're going to add two virtual fields. Virtual field 1 and virtual field 2. Okay, if we preview this, we've got our virtual field 1 up here and virtual field 2 down here. I'm just going to do a bit of formatting to turn this into something that I would like to look. Okay, so these are my start times. Let's just name this with a different name. Virtual start time. Our virtual start time field, this I want to be my hours, and this I want to be my minutes. Once I've added some value in here, so for example my event is going to start at 0900. I want to join this together and add the date and store it in the start time box over here. I want to get the date from this field, so the start date will be the 20th, the time will be 9 o'clock in the morning. I want to have a result of something that's, I want it to look something like this. In the start time field, in a valid start time or date time format. Alright, so now that the formatting is done as we need it, let's go and work in our JavaScript code. I'm going to remove this. I've got my template here, and this template again is one that I've saved. I can type out this. I can take this template, I can copy it straight into an HTML block, and I can check that my information is going to work. So all it's doing at the moment is just showing an alert 1 when submit is clicked. Submit is clicked, alert 1, we click OK. Alright, so let's start with our JavaScript code. What the variables that I'm going to require. So firstly, I need to get the date of event, because my start time is going to be made up with the date of event and the two virtual fields that I created. The reason why I'm using the date of event is because the start time is definitely going to be on the same date of the event. So my first variable is date of event. Let's just call it date for short. I will come back and change these values just now. My next variable will be my hours field. So for hours, my minutes field, and I still need to have my seconds. I haven't added a seconds field. The reason why I haven't done that is because I'm not going to allow start times to be on anything other than 00 seconds. I don't need to provide that much functionality to the user, so my default seconds will be 00. The rest of the fields I need to actually now get the values that the user supplies me. So the first one, the date, I want to get the date. The standard document.get element by ID. Insert record date of event. I want to get the value. I want to do the same for the other two virtual fields. So virtual field 1 and virtual field 2. Virtual 1 value, and the same for our minutes. That is our virtual field 2. And let's just put up some alerts to make sure that we're getting the right information. Alert date, hours, minutes. Alright, so we expect to have 3 alerts that are shown. One that shows the 28th of September, another that shows 8:08, and another that shows 30. We've got our 28th of September, we got our 8, and we got our 30. Alright, so we got our 3 variables. We can now start storing it into our results. So let's create a results variable. We'll take away these alerts. Call it start time. Okay. Now in previous videos, for the variables or for the values that I was getting from the fields, I would assign them to a data object. In part 2, you saw me turning integers with the parseInt function. for this example, I'm not going to be changing my date into a date object or converting my integer values into integers. The reason why I'm not doing that is because I don't need to do anything other than joining the strings together. I'm going to be doing string concatenation in this example, and it's perfectly okay to just join many strings together and come up with the result that we want. So my start time, the format that I want it to turn into something that looks like this. As you'll remember, it's going to be year, it's going to be month, it's going to be day. We got our space as required. It's going to be hours, minutes, and then seconds. Alright, and let's show an alert as we go through so that we can see what is happening. Notice that I'm purposefully causing the record to fail so that we can see this example in play. Okay, so my start date is the 12th of my date of event is the 12th of September. Start time hours is 9 and minutes is 30. So our alert shows that. Alright. So the first step to do, we have our date. So we know that our date of event field is already giving us a date. We've got that up here in the format that we want of year, month, and day. So simple string concatenation. I can add the date to another string. If we view this, "12th of September", start time is 8:45. We've got our date in there. There's our 12th of September date as we've taken from our variable over here, and we've got the rest of our string, hours, minutes, and seconds. Before we move on to adding the hours, minutes, and seconds in, we have to, as I showed earlier, we have to have a space between the date and the time. So we can go and to add a space, we are going to add a space, a simple string, date plus a space string plus the remainder. Okay, we've got our space in there. Next thing I want to do is I want to add the hours. So we add our hours. We can take away our hours over here. We want to have the semicolons in, then our minutes, another semicolon, and lastly our seconds. Okay, let's have a look what we come up with. Let's use the 25th of September at 10:45 in the morning. Okay, we've got an error. See, seconds, the error says seconds is not defined. My variable name is sec, so let's change it to seconds. So it matches that. The date is the 5th of September at 11:45. Our alert says the date 5th of September 11:45 with 0 seconds. Okay, that format there is a suitable format that we can enter into our start time field over here. Now, just remember that although the start time in your table is stored as a date time file type, data type, when we're entering it in over here, we're still entering in text. So this is just simple text. So if we put 2017/September the 5th at 8:30. We give it a valid name. So the submit happens, it's happy, we can carry on going. But now, but we want to add this, the start time that we built into our start time field instead of typing it. So as we've done in previous examples, we want to first get the element that we want to add the value to, and in that case it's the insert record start time. We want to work with the value and we want to set it to start time. Now before, okay, then I copy this code across. I just want to fix something first before I want to stay on the same form. That was annoying. It was annoying me a bit, so let's have a look now. Okay, so if we add the date of event as the 29th of September, our start time is 10 o'clock. We click submit. Shows our alert as we've still got there. Our value gets put into here, which is good. It fails because we haven't provided all the required fields, which is okay. It's not too much of a worry at the moment. The last thing that we want to do in terms of working with this is if for example the date of event field is not required. So if the user does not add a date but they put a time over here and they click submit, the time is not in a valid, it says here must be a date. Because our JavaScript code tried to get the date value, it got nothing. So nothing was here. It added a space as we've told it, and then it added the rest of the time. So our JavaScript is working. It's just the user hasn't provided all the fields required to make this record successfully insert. There's a number of ways that you can now do this. That you can, in your JavaScript, you can write if statements to check whether the date of event is not equal to 0 or to an empty string. But the simplest way that I'm going to do this is simply make the date of event a required field. Now, if the user enters a name of event, they enter a start time, they click submit, it's not going to allow them to submit the record because it says date of event is required. It's still putting this. It's still not including the date of event. It's still just putting the time. However, the user can't successfully insert a record without providing the date. So when they provide the date, we've got all three criteria to build our start time. We click submit. The submit happens successfully. Right, we've ensured that the user provides all the required fields. Okay, that's the bulk of our demonstration done. The last thing that I want to do is I've still given the user the ability to add the start time here. I want to hide that. I don't want to show them this field, so I just go into my fields over here. I choose the start time. I set it to hidden. I preview what's going on now. All the user sees is date of event. So let's add an event called final demo with a date of the 29th of September. The start time is 12:45. We click submit. No errors, it stayed on it as we expected. So we go into our tables. And view the events. We will see the last record that we added was our final demonstration with a start time of 12:45 as what we gave it in the submit new event form. Now this is just a simple example of how you can create a easier way for the user to enter times. You can go and look at the online community forum where they give you examples of how to implement 24-hour clocks or how to implement 12-hour clocks. Of course, the way I've got it at the moment, there's nothing stopping a user from entering a time of 30:30. Now that's a non-existent time. There are many ways that you can validate these inputs in JavaScript. You can do simple if statements to check whether the hours falls within a valid 24-hour or 12-hour clock range and so on. But I'm not going to do that in this demonstration. I've just simply showed you how to join 3 string values together, enter it into a hidden field in a valid date time format. This, as with the other demonstrations, I'll put this code online that you can go and have a look, pull it down and play with it, use it yourself as you need.